Today I want to talk with you about transplanting seedlings to bigger containers. These plants here are running out of room. They're competing with one another for light, and I need to transplant these into a larger container. Let's get started. This is the next video for you. If you have started your seedlings like we talked about in the first video, it's probably time to bump them up or transplant them into a bigger container. We use a Mittleider method, so we're just using another tray. We're going to spread them out a little bit and give them more room. This is important for a couple of reasons. I've already mentioned the competition that they're giving one another. They're competing for the light. These plants will begin to shade out the smaller plants, keep them from growing because they're not getting the light that they need. They will also become root bound. If they become root bound, they're never going to thrive, or they're going to take a long time to come out of it before they grow. We don't want any of that to occur. Now, if you don't have the Mittleider seedling trays, you're not using the Mittleider method, this will still work for you. All right, let's get started with the transplanting process. Everything in this tray is going to be going outdoors. I've got tomatoes, cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower. Got a bunch of onions over here off the screen that you can't see. Anyway, it don't matter what it is. The transplanting procedure is basically all the same. I have this little tool here. This is a Mittleider tool called a dibble. I'm going to use it to get down underneath the roots and to pull my seedling out of the tray. When you're handling your seedlings, you always want to handle them either by the root ball or by the leaves. You don't want to handle the stem. If you handle it by the stem and you break the stem, you've killed the plant. If I'm handling it by the leaf and I tear a leaf, that leaf will come back. Now, take your plants, separate out the roots. I'm going to pinch off some of these long roots. It's going to worry some of you. It did me too the first time Jim showed me to do it. We are also going to prune some of these leaves. And I'm doing that so that I can get this as far down into my growing medium as possible. And it's also reducing the amount of leaf that plant is going to have to sustain through the shock. A little bit of less leaf matter is not going to hurt it. My coconut core and sand here and over here, they're both damp. I've done that before I started this process. I'm going to use my dibble and poke it straight into the growing medium. I'm going to use this dibble to form a cylinder, a hole, all the way down to the bottom of the grow box. I'm going to put that seedling as deep down as we can get it without getting the crown under our growing medium. Now, a tendency is for people to put their dibble in the soil, hold the point still, and do this. Not going to work. We want a cylinder large enough to get our root ball down in that growing medium. Like so. Seedling goes in, and that's going to be difficult for me to do and show you. Take your tool, 2 points, hold soil up around the stem and up against the root ball. We need to make sure that we've removed any air pockets that are in there, but we don't want to compact the soil. If you compact the soil, the nutrients, the water, well, the nutrients go with the water, and the air can't get to the roots. All of those things get to the plant through the roots. There is no set spacing when you do this. Just make sure that you give them ample room that they can grow for a while, put on more size, and not shade one another out. Forgive me, I'm bad about rambling and missing a point, something that needs to be discussed. Typically, I like to do my transplanting in an evening and or on a cloudy day. The heat and the sun is another contributing factor to a little stress to these plants going through the shock of being transplanted. By doing it in the evening or on a cloudy day and a cooler day, it gives them more opportunity to overcome the transplant shock and to be strong and ready to go on the next full day of sun. Earlier in the series I talked about starting extra seeds because not everything is going to germinate and you're going to get runts that we don't want to put in the garden. Dusty, if you're watching this, look away. This guy is a runt and I'm going to cull it. I'm not even going to transplant it into my seedling flat. It's not very strong. It's not doing well as compared to the other ones. I don't want it in my garden. For those of you that are following along in this series and you're getting your own garden started, you should have your seedlings going now. You should be ready to bump them up or do the first transplant and do a larger container. And your soil beds, you also should be working on getting those done. I made a video a couple of days ago, iCard here and link in the description, showing you how to make the level to get your soil beds level. You should be looking to find out when your average last day of frost is, kind of pay attention to the extended weather forecast to see when it looks like your actual frost is done for the year. Also, if you're doing your seedling development indoors, you're using a grow light or something like that, you're going to need to start hardening off your seedlings. If you bring them from inside and you put them directly outside, they are not going to make it. Alright, now everything in this seedling flat, hello there little bee, everything in this seedling flat is spaced out. It has room to grow. They're not going to be competing for resources. The last thing that you do after you get everything transplanted is you need to water it. Get that water down to the roots, and that will help to carry it through the shock of being transplanted. These are still in the seedling stage, and until they go in the garden, we will water them daily with the constant feed. We're about a week away from moving out to the garden and getting started there. Thank you for watching, and happy gardening.